Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see all of you here. I'm Suli, your host for today. Thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us. So today's topic is quite a heavy topic. Yeah, bullying is something that many parents often worry about, but often we feel unsure how to respond. And according to the Star, a global study in 2023 found that out of 45 countries, Malaysia had the fourth highest level of bullying among Form 2 students. And while the anti-bullying bill was passed last December to strengthen prevention and response efforts, Malaysia still records an average of 14,000 bullying cases each year, which is really astonishing. So, as you can see, bullying is not a small issue, and I believe your presence here also shows that you are concerned about this topic. So, and I believe many of us here also experienced bullying when we were a kid, and sometimes those memories can shape how we respond to our children when they are being bullied. So bullying may not always be avoidable, yeah, but how we respond to it and how our children come through it is what truly matters. So before we go further, we'd like to hear from our audience that is here with us tonight. Have you ever been concerned that your child might be experiencing bullying? Yeah, so you can respond in the chat. Yes, no, unsure. Yeah, that will give me a good gauge to know why you're here tonight. And while you type your responses, let me just share that as a mother of four school going children aged between 6 and 12, all four of them at some point have come home, and they've come home from school with stories about their friends calling them names or getting hit or being ignored or suddenly excluded from their group. And as a parent, I think many of us will have this internal debate. Is it bullying or is it just part of growing up? Should I step in? Should I tell them to stay away from the bully? Do I involve the teacher or the parent? And if my child isn't bothered, are they being resilient or am I just simply raising a pushover? Right? There are so many questions that we have. So let's take a look at some of the answers. Yeah, okay. So I think many of us say yes. Okay, we are worried. Either we know that our kids are being bullied or we are concerned. Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much for your responses. And our hope for tonight is that it will bring some clarity and confidence to us as parents. And our goal is not to alarm you with the statistics, but really to equip you so that you're able to spot the signs early and to respond with confidence. And lastly, to be able to build that safe space for your child to come to you. Because while bullying is very real, your presence as a parent and your response can make a powerful difference. So tonight, we are very privileged to have three special speakers with us who will guide us through this important topic. So first, it's my privilege to introduce to you our topic expert, Dr. Daniel Fang. Dr. Daniel spent 17 years in the United States, where he obtained his PhD in clinical psychology from the University of South Dakota. And since then, he's returned to Malaysia in 2021, and he's been running a private practice in Subang Jaya, where he works with individuals, couples, as well as families. He's also a father of three active boys from age 6 to 14, and he volunteers as a coach in a community football league. Dr. Daniel, welcome. Just give us a wave. Hello.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, it's good to have you. Next, we have a special guest joining us all the way from Singapore, Ganesan Maniam and his teenage son, Kavi. They share a close father and son bond shaped by openness and trust, especially through Kavi's experience of being bullied. And Ganesan has been married to Kanjana since 2008 and is a devoted father to two teenagers. And as a family, they value the simple joy of spending time together and sharing life stories. So welcome, Ganesan and Kavi. Say hi.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
thanks for joining us. All right. Once again, to those who have just joined us, a very warm welcome to you. A quick note, we will have a Q&A session before we wrap up tonight. So throughout the session, feel free to submit your questions in the comments, and we'll do our very best to address them at the end of the questions that we have prepared. So if everyone's ready, let's dive right in. Let's begin by building a clear understanding about what bullying is, because sometimes what looks like childhood growing pains may actually be something more serious. So, Dr. Daniel, how do we define bullying and how is it different from normal conflict and what is indirect bullying?
All right, yeah, so that's a two-part question. I'll try to address the first one today. First, so bullying itself, maybe easy to think about it in terms of three different aspects. Uh, the scope, the so scope is one, uh, the intent is the other, and then the third one is also power. So scope refers to whether it is a pattern or not. So
Mm,
usually when we think about bullying, it is more than a one-time thing. The dictum in behavioral psychology is, once is an aberrance, twice is a coincidence, three times is a pattern. So if you see something happening for at least three times or more, you know that it is an ongoing issue, right?
mm,
The repetitiveness of the behavior indicates that it meets the threshold for one of the three parts of bullying. So that's scope. Then the second one has to do with the intent. So usually, from the perpetrator of the bullying, the person who's doing the bullying, that person intends to put down the other person, intends to cause distress to the target. So there's intent. Uh, uh, you can even maybe a software is saying it, there's some malicious intent,
right.
desire to put down the other person, right? So you don't do it for their good. Then the third one really has to do with the power imbalance. And so that power part is usually someone in authority or someone with, so either strength, popularity, just wielding a level of authority that's different from the other person. And
Mm,
so when you combine all three aspects together, that's where you meet that threshold for what we understand traditionally as bullying, right? So maybe if I can give an example of what that might or might not look like, what that might not look like. So typically when people sometimes you take between friends, there's some joking, some teasing, some joshing back and forth, and sometimes someone says something that goes too far, right?
mm,
But there's no intent to hurt the other person, but I just said something that I didn't mean to, but then it came out wrong and it kind of caused distress to the other person, right? But is this a pattern of something that's repeated? If the answer is no, if there's no real intent, that's not quite bullying, right? Um, and let me give an example also from my own kids, the stories that they bring back. One of my sons coming back from school, during one of the days in school, they were in the bathroom and school bathroom, and the classmate found a mop and decided to take that mop and swing it around at his classmates. Would we call that bullying? There was some aggression in there.
mm,
Some of the classmates got twacked with it, and would that be bullying? Um, if you look at the power aspect, well, yes, certainly he was stronger. He had a tool that he was using to aggress on other people. If you look at the intent, he was causing some distress, some hurt to other people. But if you look at the pattern, was this a pattern of behavior?
mm,
Probably at that, given that that was the instance that was talked about that day, and no prior crime, so to speak. This is more like a crime of opportunity. That's something that just
mm,
happened as a spur of a moment. It's hard to just traditionally define that as just bullying.
right.
Okay, so um, those three aspects have to be in play. So now then, when we think about direct versus indirect bullying, that second part of your question,
Mm-hmm,
um, so direct forms are typically when there's a perpetrator and the target. So someone who is doing the bullying and someone who is the recipient of that, the target of the bullying.
mm-hmm,
Um, and uh, when when there's so that's usually physical or verbal, right, between the perpetrator and the target. That's considered direct bullying. Now the
mm,
indirect forms are usually relates to social aspects, the relational aspects of bullying. So
mm,
sometimes that could look like exclusions from groups. We don't invite you to gatherings. We might joke around with each other, but somehow when you enter that conversation, the conversation stills or it stops. Um, Sometimes people form groups. So in one of my other son's classes, the kids in the class, there were two kids who had a beef with each other, and one of the kids formed a secret group, a pact with a secret group of friends, who wrote their names down on a book, and they would target that kid to like take the kid's stuff, and
mm,
sometimes to steal it, sometimes to hide it. just to cause some mischief and distress to that person. Um, and so, would that meet the definition of bullying? That one does, because it's in a direct form, but there is a power difference. A bunch of people ganging up on the one person um, with the intent to cause distress. All right. Indirect bullying, exclusion, social exclusion is one of them. Another one that's actually very much more common today is this idea of cyberbullying. The online forms. And so with the advent of social media, uh, this is, I think, it's a very known sphere in today's school going children.
Yes, correct. Thanks, Dr. Daniel. That's a really helpful framework for us to start with to be able to define. I like what you shared about the scope and the intent and the power imbalance. And yeah, I think that's very helpful. So thank you. Before we move further, Kavi, let's get to know you a little bit more. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Kavi? What do you enjoy doing, and what is something that in your life that you're very proud of?
Hello everyone, thank you. So, like I previously mentioned, my name is Kavi. Currently I'm Sec 4 this year, taking my N levels in Singapore. From a very young age, I really like watching television shows and playing video games, and I usually like partaking in these with my friends as well.
Mm,
And a few years back, when I first entered secondary school, I joined the drama club in order to increase my overall confidence and extrovertedness. Because in primary school, I was really quite shy and didn't really talk to much people.
yeah. Okay. So that's something that you're proud of. I think that's good. Like to really step out of your comfort zone to do something that is scary. Yeah. So that's great. It's good to see a person beyond the experience. And I think we really appreciate your courage in being here to share about that difficult experience that you had being bullied. So can you tell us what happened, when did it happen, what it felt like for you, and what do you wish people understood about being bullied?
Thank you. So, like Dr. Daniel previously mentioned, there are different forms of bullying, but what I'm going to talk about now is the more physical aspect of bullying, even though over the years I've encountered more forms than one. But the
Mm,
ones I face the most is the physical aspect. So when I first entered primary two, there was this boy in my class who seemed really friendly at first, would just tease me, and I didn't really know better since I was quite young, and I couldn't really grasp the concept of bullying yet. So as time went on, he escalated his methods from teasing to physical contact to eventually hitting and bruising me.
mm,
And at that point in time, I was really not knowing of what to do because on one hand, I really wanted to tell my parents. On the other hand, I was scared to tell them because I had this underlying feel of being like judged and getting scolded by them, as
mm.
I didn't really experience this before and I didn't know what to do. I tried approaching my friends, but they themselves also weren't helpful at the time because they weren't being bullied as much as me. So, how my parents eventually figured out was when I came home, I had some bruises on my arm and my body. So I tried hiding it by putting on a t-shirt and like slightly longer pants. They only found the bruises when they like rolled up my sleeves and they saw
Mm,
black spots and they questioned me about it. As a primary two student, I really didn't feel like telling them because I was, like I mentioned previously, I was very scared of telling them. I didn't
mm,
want to be judged. So I tried making up various half-baked excuses. So like hoping they would believe me and stop questioning me. But luckily they managed to like get me to talk, like tell them what exactly happened. And instead of judging me and scolding me, what I really admired the most was that they managed to give me a listening ear and they gave me their standpoint and like how I can move forward from there. Like whether I wanted to approach a teacher or make that boy go to counseling like that. So I really feel that that was a really big step for them.
yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing so honestly. And it's good to hear that your family, of course, they were so supportive. But I can understand that fear that you may have had, at the start of even telling them that this was happening, right? So, from a parent's perspective, Ganesan, sometimes I guess when kids are being bullied, it's not so obvious. But in the sense of Kavi, it was obvious because of the physical bruising, right? So did you sense that something was wrong even before he told you? Yeah. Maybe you can share, how did you first spot that he was being bullied?
Hi, thank you. Uh, First of all, because Kavi, among my two children, right, Kavi used to be a very bubbly boy, very
Mm,
bubbly young boy who like to talk a lot, and just like me, I like to talk a lot and all that. But eventually, when he went into P2, he was very quiet. From bubbly to quiet is two different things. So I noticed that he has been quiet. So I and my wife decided to chat with each other and find out. So like what I said, is always closer to my wife. So asked my wife to talk to him to find out what happened. At first, he didn't want to say like what he said, excuses here and there, saying that no, nothing, everything is okay, everything is perfect in school. He has made new friends and all that. But subsequently, when my wife talked, then I decided to sit down and also have a chat. We were not judgmental at all. So we give a listening ear to him to talk, then to find out what is happening in school. Then slowly he came out from the nutshell to tell what was really happening in school with the bruises and all that.
all right. Thanks for sharing. So in your case, it was a change of behavior on his side that helped caused you to start wondering and wanting to find out more. Yeah. So Dr. Daniel, when should parents shift from simply monitoring, right, in a sense like what Ganesan was sharing, to actually intervening? And are there any trends that you're seeing in Malaysian children today that might explain the rise in bullying, such as like empathy or self-control challenges that we face?
Right. Maybe if I can take that first part of that question, um, and try to build some nuance into it. So I assume, when you talk about from monitoring to intervening, the parents already have some suspicion or some knowledge that their child is being targeted at school. And if there is already that knowledge that there is there, then I think it does behoove the parent to initially not jump in. We can't always solve our children's problems for them. We want to empower them to be able to solve their problems. And um, so part of that process really is that monitoring first, which is then building that picture clearly in your head, what is going on as a parent. So if you don't know a lot of the facts, and your child is reluctant to find out, to describe what is going on, then the
Mm-hmm.
first step really is to you can observe their behaviors, like what Mr. Ganesan did, which is fantastic. And if you can see observable changes in behavior, that is when you would have to press a little bit more for the information. So have build that relationship, that engagement with your child, so that they are comfortable sharing with you what is going on, so that they can be descriptive about what's going on. Um, and I think the marker for when they move from monitoring to intervening, I would say that even in the process, right, as they are engaging with your children are engaging with you and telling you what's going on, you are already in some ways, that nuance is you're already in some ways intervening. That itself is a form of intervention, where you are just there to listen and provide support, right? So it starts with that. So now, if you're talking about intervention where the parent steps in and the parent says, "Let me call the other parent," or the parent says, "Let me go to school and talk to the teacher about this issue," I think the threshold of severity for that kind of varies based on the parent. I think a lot of it is knowing the type of kid you have, and also the type of parent you want to be. I think the question you have to ask yourself is, how much do you want to risk disempowering your child?
Mm,
Um, and when I use the word empowering, I mean is like I mean that by letting your child be able to resolve the issue, so you can guide them through some of the steps, some of the things they can do, right? But also ultimately let them go through the process. We want, of course, as parents, you want to shield our children from pain. That's only natural, right? We do. Um, I think sometimes some parents are much more active, let's just say maybe proactive, to the point of being like the versions of
helicopter.
helicoptering, yeah, parents, where they try to shield their kids from all harm. And the reality is you can't always do that. And so it's important for your children to learn how to step up and how to reach out for help as well. Um, and so the answer to that question, when do they shift from monitoring to intervening? I say the direct intervention part, where if you go talk to teachers, where you talk to the other parents, I think is a threshold for every parent. I would say if it involves bruises, so Kavi was talking about being bruised by the other kid. So that's level of physical aggression that is certainly concerning. If it's bruises and it does not stop with even when you have guided your child through steps that they can partake in school, certainly feel free to step up as a parent. That's certainly well within your parental right to approach school authorities, to also approach the other parent. Just between parents, we want to correct this child's behavior, you know, that as an aggressor, this is inappropriate, and we want them to grow as a good human being. So if you do that with good intent. But a lot of times, I think usually what happens is between parents is like, I'm on my side with my child, and you're on your side with your child, and people form fences, and so people get almost contestational, uh, so and then becomes very hard, it becomes a he said she said kind of issue. But ideally, right, the process is we want to be able to, if when we step in, we want to model also good behavior for our children, how to resolve conflicts, because this is a form of conflict going on in school.
Mm.
In terms of trends, right? Sorry, it's
Mm.
kind of long answer, but just
No
really
worries.
quickly, in terms of trends, maybe I'll speak to a couple real quick. I think when you say what are trends among Malaysian children driving the rise in bullying, I think one of them truly is increased awareness of it. And what I mean by that is I think the Ministry of Education is paying more attention to it. So when I read some of the recent news articles, the ministry is more serious about wanting to address the issue of bullying. So one of the basic things about behavior change is if you can track it, you can change it. So I think the ministry has placed more emphasis to the schools about tracking in their. They have a, gosh, I read it earlier. They have a reporting system in which they track these bullying cases reported at schools, and the numbers increased in that system, that reporting system, because they send out circulars teaching or educating schools on how to properly file these reports. So that's part of it. It's just kind of an increased awareness. It's just like the idea of like in the past, like earthquakes. Are we getting more earthquakes, or is it that we have better detection of better tools for detecting earthquakes now?
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the things. There's a better attention to the issue. And I think the other part is also better parental awareness. And so, talks like this, right, help people become more aware what is bullying, whether my child could be part of this, could be a target of bullying. Conversely, hope maybe we might talk about this later, whether my child becomes a perpetrator as well.
Mm.
But there, I think enough growing awareness, I think, really helps shape some of this stuff.
Mm. Thanks, Dr. Daniel. I think that's really helpful to know when to step in, like you said, because we do want to raise resilient children, right? That we don't kind of jump in whenever they have a problem. So maybe Ganesan, you can share a bit. What role did family support play in helping Kavi through his bullying? I know you shared a little bit just now, but perhaps you can expand a little bit on it.
Okay, for me, firstly, for me and my wife, right, we feel that this is very, very important. Family support. Okay, family support is very important for us if I want to deal with this issue. Okay, especially when Kavi is being bullied, I feel that he needs a safe space. He needs a safe space where we can talk about what happened, and rather than we judging Kavi itself. Okay, we cannot be judgmental to say that yes, it's because of you this started and all that. We cannot be judgmental at all. We give him space to give him a safe space to talk and let him listen to him, right? Then at the same time, we need to guide him on what are the next steps to take let's say, are we going to meet the school teachers, or
Mm.
what we're going to do subsequently?
All
As
right.
parents, right? Yeah, as parents, we cannot be judgmental to jump in to say that, oh, it's because of this, it's because of that. Rather than we give them a listening ear to let them talk and speak, then from there we can know what is the truth.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a good point because sometimes as parents, we can say, what did you do? That your friend did this. So to give that listening ear and a chance for them to explain, I think that shows really the importance of family support, yeah, when a child is being bullied. So thank you. We'll move. Now we've talked a little bit about how do we recognize bullying. Now let's talk about what parents can actually do, right, in these moments more specifically. So before we continue, our audience has been quiet. So let's hear a little bit. You can type in your answers in the comments. What do you find hardest as a parent? Whether it's A, spotting bullying, B, getting them to talk, or C, taking action. Yeah, when you really need to take action, perhaps something stops you. Yeah, for me, as you're answering, it's definitely A and C. Yeah, to able to spot the bullying. I think like Dr. Daniel was sharing, like how often is it happening? Is it a pattern with the same kid? Is it and I always say, oh, they're just children being children, right? But if there's really a malicious intent, then maybe that's something that is really they're being bullied, right? And I think C of also is the taking action bit. Like when do I step in? So far, I've not really stepped in. So, and thankfully, my kids have all are sort of surviving. Yeah. So, but at the same time, I think every parent's fear is that our children will end up being bullied, and they will be affected for the lifetime. I think that is my at least my fear as a mom, right? So I think looking at the answers here, B, okay, mostly getting them to talk, all right? So how do you get your child to open up? Later, Ganesan will share a little bit too about the practices that he has to create this safe environment for his child. All right, so quite a few of B's here. Okay, feel free to keep on typing in the box as well. All right, C as well. Okay, so thank you everyone for sharing your answers. Clearly, many of us here are navigating similar challenges. So let's talk about what actually helps. Kavi, let's start again from your experience because, yeah, we want to hear more from you. What helped stop the bullying and help you to get through it?
All right, thanks. So although the bullying didn't, to be honest, the bullying didn't really fully stop. It only actually stopped when I entered secondary school. But what really did help me go through it was my family's like listening ear and like my friends supporting me in my times of need. And sometimes we just don't really, pay attention to these type of things. Like it can be hard to like catch on, and like it may be easier to miss out on it. But when you do catch on it, it can be really helpful to people who like are struggling. Like for example, when I was in primary school, sorry, when I was in primary school, I said, I was frequently getting bullied. And although I didn't really tell my parents at first, I did have a support network that I made for myself, or at least tried to, with my friends or even some teachers I don't mind sharing it with. So when I actually shared with them, I felt more of a sense of relief, and I felt the feeling that I really wasn't alone.
Mm,
With that feeling, it actually helped me push my way through primary school and through most of the bullying, honestly. So that's how I find it really helpful. Thanks.
all right, thanks. Um, I mean, I hope you don't mind ask you a follow-up question. So at what point or how did it stop when you were in sec two, you said, right? How did it eventually stop? You just the friends moved schools or
Thanks. So it did stop. It only stopped because the bully was in a different school from me. So I was able to find solace in knowing that I wouldn't be bullied or teased as much in secondary school.
right? Okay. Yeah. Sorry that you went through such a difficult time, but you're able to share about it now. Dr. Daniel, Maybe you can share when a child opens up and shares that they've been being bullied in school, what is the best first response from a parent, and what should parents perhaps avoid saying or doing?
Yeah, I think if I have to boil it down to to the parental response, I would say two things. First is to really appreciate your child for opening up, because what your child is doing in that moment is engaging in what we call help-seeking behavior,
Mm.
right? So they are looking to you to try to gain some level of support, some level of understanding, or someone to just say something to. And so when they are help seeking, we want to make sure that we don't shut that down. So Mr. Ganesan earlier was talking about being not non-judgmental. I think that's really important, right? Being able to create this environment where they feel safe coming forward with their issue, right? So and so a lot of it for me takes place in that form of that, say, being able to say thanks for sharing. I really appreciate. I know it kind of it sounds like it's pretty hard for you to just open up and talk about it, but I just want to say thanks for being able to say something. And then that's the first part. Then the second part is to just say, tell me more, which means then, so I'm just kind of curious. So when you said this, what happened before that, right? So usually in most of the sequence of stories of what has happened, that is, uh, we can think of them as like links in a chain. There's one link leading to another, leading to another. So they are like things that happen before the actual bullying, and maybe things happening before that actual thing that happened before the bullying. And so as you start to understand the links, you can understand the patterns of what's happening in your child's life. And when I say patterns, I mean, like, say for example, like, when is it most likely they're going to get targeted? Who is it likely by? What are the types of targeting that's being done? Is it physical? Is it verbal? Is it like a social, like ganging up on the child? So as you build the narratives, as they tell you more, right? Um, that's the part that you are able to understand, right? What should parents avoid? They should avoid big overreactions, I think. So I think it's a classic. Like, have you guys ever watched videos online social media where people are carrying an infant, and then they bang the door and make a very loud sound, and then they ask, oh, are you okay, are you okay, and then they're stroking the infant, and then the infant didn't get hit, didn't get hurt at all, right? But the reaction of the parent cues the child to like start to cry, right?
Mhm.
And then they're like, oh, I'm injured, and but the reality is they're not, right? You just paired that loud sound with the reaction of like, are you okay, which then makes it seem that they should socially, now I should act like I'm in pain, because you are acting like as if I'm in pain. Um, so that's what I mean by not having an overreaction. What I mean is being able to calmly listen through it, and that level of support. Sometimes parents, you might get fired up, especially when you see the pattern, and you think it's past that threshold, and then you want to engage in action, the action piece, right? Um, and I've seen before too, parents that against their own child's wishes, they would call up the other parent, or call the school authorities, which then in some ways subjects your child to being the subject of discussion the next day. Oh, do you know that their mom called um, my mom, or their mom called this mom, or their mom called the school authorities, you know? And then people by association, they will say like, oh, don't associate so much with this person, because uh, they are going to be, they're too sensitive, you know? And so you almost subject them to like an increased burden of social exclusion, which is a form, again, of bullying, right? And
Mm.
so the child is really like, some children are really deathly against that. So part of that process, parents, in when you are wanting to respond, is also building then a good response together with your child, not doing for your child, but doing with your child.
Right. So we are listening so that we can be there for them, right? To kind of understand the situation, not necessarily to try and fix the problem right away, right? Okay. So, but I think sometimes, if you don't mind me asking a follow-up question too,
Sure.
is
Yeah.
that I feel that I may minimize their situation in a way that if I hear it and I'm like, oh, okay, you'll be okay, like your friend is just whatever, being mean, maybe you can just ignore it. Is that kind of does that minimize their experience, or am I, because I don't want to be that parent, right? Where I, like make it a big deal and then they're like, yeah, actually it's really bad, but maybe it wasn't in the first place. So how do we know? Are we minimizing, or are we like just, yeah, I don't know what's the alternative.
Yeah, I would say I think a lot of it you take the cue from the child, which
Mm,
what I mean by that is, how did they feel about it, right?
mm,
The treatment from, say, their classmate. How did they feel about that? Did they feel that was too much? Did they feel like, uh, and the level of distress it's causing them? And maybe that's a hard gauge to have. Um, there are soft ways to ask that particular question, but very hard for me to teach in a very short period of time. But the big part is basically trying to see how much it distresses them, and then you watch also whether this changes how they interact socially as well. Um, so socially or at home. So typically, when when targets of bullies uh, become receive that bullying on a frequent basis, there is going to be social withdrawal, almost certainly. If your child is already quiet and they become deathly quiet, then that's also something to be concerned about, right?
mm.
Again, you're looking at the scale of change typically.
Sure.
And um, yeah, so I'm
All
not sure
right.
if I answered that
Thanks.
question for you. Yeah,
Yep. Thank
hopefully.
you. Yeah, so that's helpful. I think because our first response can either open the door for them to share more, or we can shut it, right, by our response. So I think, but beyond that moment, there's also that time when we're that, well, the consistency of what we want to build in our child, right, over time, the values. So Ganesan, maybe you can share with us what values, for you as a parent, do you think are important to teach children when they face unkindness or hurtful behavior from others?
For me, when I used to tell my children, when others are unkind to you, right? Just these are the values which I would like to inculcate in them. One is empathy. The second one is self-respect, and the third one, like what we were talking about, resilient, right?
Mm,
Yeah. So empathy helps them to understand about the truthful behaviors, all right? Others do to them, all right? They might be they might be facing a lot of other challenges they themselves in their life, all right? For self-respect, uh, teaches them not to tolerate someone bullying, like for Kavi, right? Like someone bullying Kavi himself, right? And resilient, asking them to bounce back from whatever that happened and continue with their life. These
mm.
are the three important values which I normally teach them, even my son and my daughter.
All right. Thanks. I think those are very important values, yeah, to teach our children, but not just for bullying, but in facing any life challenges. So let's make this even more practical, Dr. Daniel. What are some practical ways, yeah, to teach children um, assertive responses, and what does real resilience look like beyond telling them be strong? How do we build that resilience in our kids?
Right. I think so. I do teach assertiveness in as part of my practice as well, and I think there are several steps if you want to go through this idea of assertiveness. I think the big one is you start with being able to describe the facts, and what I mean by that is, so if we are teaching our kids to be assertive in that moment, um, we are they have to learn first to describe exactly what happened without judgment. These are It's a statement of the fact, right? So it's, for example, if I may use Kavi, since you describe what had happened, you can just say that uh, you hit during. I'm not sure if he did this. The bullies did this in a playful way, but during the play the other day, you hit me, and it left bruises on my arm, right? That's a fact, right? Bruises on my arm. So it's actually really painful. So you describe the fact first. Then pain is actually what you're feeling, whether you're feeling physically or emotionally, what you're feeling or thinking about it. It's actually really painful, right? So you describe the fact, then you express how you feel about it, and then the third one is then you actually make the ask or the assertion, right? Which is you can just say like, hey, next time when we play, just chill a little, you know, scale it back a little, or you can just say that next time when we play, just be more careful, right? Um, and it's a graceful way of just saying to that bully, you know. Granted, there are some people who will have malicious intent, right? Who will like thrive on actually injuring the other person, right? And they will tease you for even asking this as well. Which again, then you can go to the same exercise, right? You can describe that, hey, I just asked you to, and you're making fun of me instead, right? Statement of the fact, you know, and that's not very nice. I don't feel very good about it. You know, just can I ask that you respect, you know, my request? Like I'm kind of serious about it actually. Yeah. So you go through the whole same cycle again, right? So it's like a describe the facts, express how you feel or think about it, and then you make your ask, your ask, right?
All right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, and what if it doesn't stop there? That's my question. As
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, sorry, I talked about as if you are going to approach with the perpetrator, right?
Yeah.
The describe, express, ask.
Yeah. Your child goes and to the
Yes,
talk
correct.
to the perpetrator. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one has to do with conflict resolution. So you try to directly engage the person. After multiple attempts, the person is unresponsive. Then you take the up. That's when you know to move up to the next step. That's also when parents maybe might have to play a more active role, move from monitoring to intervention, right? That you had asked earlier. So you give the child an opportunity to because really school is a microcosm of society. What you learn on the school grounds will reflect also what you learn in the real world down the road. How you handle yourself, how people can be, and some people can sometimes unfortunately be nasty. And then so you got to learn how to navigate the world around you, and we want them to be able to do that. And then if not, then how teach them how to take it up the next notch. Who then? And so whether that be so Kavi, you said you talked about having supportive friends, right? And sometimes staying in groups is helpful. These are social laws, so to speak. But I would say that the DEA, the describe, express, and ask, can be also taken to the next level, whether it's a school authority, a school counselor, guidance counselor, maybe, or a teacher, a class teacher. So classic easy one, class teacher. Above the class teacher, school guidance counselor. Above that is the discipline teacher slash headmaster, headmistress, right? So, I mean, there are tiers to this in the conflict resolution, right? The parent of the other student, I would say it really depends on the egregiousness of the behavior. I think school authorities come first, and the school can decide whether they want to involve the other parent. Typically, schools do because we just want to correct the other child's behavior. But when it becomes to a point where even the other parent can't really control, then the schools, they have their tiers of discipline as well, from the all the way to, like, I think suspension and expulsion as well. So I mean, the first ones are like demerits, caning. I'm not sure many schools are practicing that nowadays, but they have tiers as well of their discipline too as well. So that's where it's a conflict resolution method. In the school system, and then I guess when you go out in society, it's not a school board, but it's more so like in the legal courts where these things get decided.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, that the skill of DEA, I think that's very helpful. Okay. And I think beyond skills too, I think the relationship between parent and child is important. If it's strong, then the child is more likely to come to the parent to seek help, right? So, Ganesan, what do you intentionally do in your home to build this relationship where Kavi feels safe opening up to you?
I try to be intention about creating a safe space, judgment-free space at home. Okay, at home itself, I have a cozy corner, right? Cozy corner. This is my cozy corner, where my wife had created this space, a cozy corner in part of our living room, where we will meet here, right? Meet here whenever we got topics to talk. And it's not during when there is problems, but we meet here frequently. Let's say after a few couple of days, we will meet here to have our tea and coffee over snacks. Then we will chit chat about what happened during the few days or even few weeks and all that. Okay, in this space, right, we have listening ear for each and every one of us. So we remain calm, and when we talk, right, we give them the space to talk. Let the children talk, or even adults talk, right? Even sometimes Kavi turn to us and ask, Kavi and my daughter Jayshree will ask, how's your day? How's work? Is everything okay at work? It's not only we meet when there is problem, but we meet here regularly at this cozy corner, we call it, over tea and coffee. Even when the children they want to talk, right? They say, "Can we meet at cozy corner?" Although we are within the house itself, right? But we say,
Mm.
"Can we meet at the cozy corner over tea, coffee? We will chit chat for an hour or even two, talk about what happened over the weekend and what we do." And it's a place where we regularly meet in, right, to check in on each and every one. And like what I said, we do not meet or find out only when we have problems about bully or whatever it is. I regularly, even when I go to work, I call in to check in on them to see how they have been doing in school and is everything okay, regular checks in and all that.
Right.
Even when I come back late from work, right, my children will call me to check if I'm okay. So these are the regular check-ins we do.
Wow, that's wonderful. I love that space that you have. Looks like a very Instagrammable place. Not like a home, but like a cafe that you can go to and with the little swinging chair. Yeah, I think that's beautiful to have that space. And then I think that makes it more intentional that you can actually go there. And when you sit there, you know why you're there, right? To actually catch up and bond over coffee, over tea. So that's awesome. All right. So as we're coming closer to the end, Kavi, looking back, how has this experience of being bullied changed you? And what have you discovered about yourself through this journey?
Thanks. Thanks. So I'm really going to have to be quite honest and open about my answer. And my answer might hurt some parents, but it's it's the truth that most people need to know. So personally, bullying really changes you in ways that you cannot imagine, both mentally and physically. Um, as I said, when I was in primary school, I used to. My dad said that I used to be a quite a bubbly kid. I would talk a lot. I would make new friends. But once the bullying eventually started, I started to socially seclude myself from classmates and friends. I would purposefully make up excuses to like not sit with them during recess or hang out with them or play sports with them. Most of the time, I would be eating my lunch alone or like just standing up somewhere and like eating my lunch and not talking to anyone. I didn't want people to know that I was so called flawed as I was being bullied. So it really painted a negative image of myself with like low self esteem and low standards, which really did impact me in my life in primary school and even further out in secondary school. But on a more positive note, I eventually became more self aware of my own actions because after eventually feeling how it felt to be bullied, how it felt to be hurt, I really understood more how to not hurt people in a sense that like to make them feel sad or to make them like feel negative emotions. I also learned how to console people and eventually even be a listening ear to them, which I'm quite proud of to say the least.
Yeah,
Thank you
I
so much.
think I think that's so awesome to come out of the experience in a way that you're not bitter, but you see the other side of you have more empathy for others and you are more caring towards others because of the experience that kind of changed you. Yeah. Um, Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So as we come towards the end, maybe a last key takeaway for each one of you. Kavi, maybe you go first. What do you wish parents would understand about a child? how a child feels when they are being bullied.
Thank you. So most I really feel that parents should understand that where a child comes from when they're being bullied is not out of a place of like trying to hide their own feelings from their parents or trying to like purposefully like hide stuff from them in order to make them feel bad. They are trying children who are being bullied actually try to hide their like emotions and feelings as to not stress their parents and inconvenience them. I'm speaking from personal experience as when I was bullied in primary school. I tried my best to hide my bruises, like I said, and this was because like I didn't want them to worry about me. They were quite empathetic and they really wanted to help me to their best abilities, but didn't want them to entangle themselves in my whole bullying situation, and like I really wouldn't want them to feel more stressed and like at unease. So I just decided to hide it from them. But
Mhm.
sometimes I really just wish that you know parents could understand that and like see it from a child's standpoint, be it in that like children just don't want to inconvenience their parents or hurt their parents emotionally, because what we feel from bullying, we do not want to reflect it onto our own parents. We don't want them to feel the same hate and fear and anxiety that we are feeling, and we don't want them to feel the same thing.
Hmm.
So thank you.
Right. Thanks. Wow. So that comes from a very, in a way, compassionate place of not wanting to burden your parents. Yeah. So I know this is not in the question there, but Garrison, as a dad, what would you have wanted him to know or to understand in his situation? Like, yeah, maybe how would you have felt in that moment?
uh, feel as a child, right? If we can say this, right? I feel very blessed and also sad that he don't want us to go in and to help.
Mm,
But I also feel that by listening, right, it plays a very important part for me, right?
mm,
Listening to him, giving the space, and not being judgmental, right? At least we hear him and we support him. That's one thing that I learned, and not to react too quickly to whatever that happens, right? To listen and give them a listening space, time to let them talk to us of what happened, rather than we jump too quickly, right? I don't want him to shut down where they don't talk at all. Then it'll be
mm.
more difficult for us as parents.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, as someone said here, Carol said, it's useful to know our children's burden. Yeah, I think we don't see often from the child's point of view that they see it as, they're trying to actually protect the parent from feeling for them, right? But I think as parents, we often love to hear our children. Yeah, we love to be there for them and we want them to share. And sometimes we have to like do a little bit of digging from them, maybe like I think spending those time with them and allowing those moments, because I think as parents, sometimes we're so busy that we don't have those moments that we slow down and give the space for conversations like this to come up, right? So thanks for sharing. Dr. Daniel, last question for you. When should parents seek outside help? Yeah, and where can they turn to?
Right. When should they seek help? I think one or two markers come to mind. One is if they hit a wall with being able to engage with their children. So if their children are fairly disengaged from their parents, and are still going through it, but not actually seeking support. Now, it's fine, I think, if children do have their sources of other support, but typically, um, parents should be one of that also. That changes a little bit in teen years, especially in later teen years. Kids are individuating and they are finding a bit more of themselves and less dependent on their parents. But in the earlier years, and even to the early teens, being able to have that engagement with your child is important. So if your child is suffering in silence, so to speak, and you notice that they are not expressive with you, not and have a hard time maybe just opening up, that's probably a good marker, a good indicator. Another one is if they maybe they are still um, open with you and they're engaging with you. At the same time, they are clearly in distress. And so when I mean in distress, what I mean is there's clear changes. There are clear changes in their behavior. Sometimes, so more than just like social withdrawals. It, you they will lose interest or pleasure in things they enjoy doing. They don't seem very happy anymore. They mope around a lot, and some of them might start engaging in self-harm as well. So that is quite, it's not uncommon. I won't say it's common, but it's just not uncommon actually among middle, secondary age onwards. A number of kids will engage in that. Um, and so, um, so that's when you should start looking for help. And I think because really you want to help your child navigate the questions that they have. So, like if I have to use Kavi's example, when he was young, the world was probably a safer place. And after he started getting bullied, the view of the world changes. The world maybe is not so safe a place. And then what do you do when your worldview changes? And if they can't open up with their parents, if they're taking it on themselves, or there's a lot of behavior changes, you can see your child in distress, time to maybe look for some professional help. Think about that at least. And where can they go? Um, I think automatically a lot of people sometimes think about counselors or psychologists. Certainly that's one avenue. I wouldn't say that's the only avenue. Sometimes an elder sibling, and an older or maybe a younger than you, younger than the parent, aunt or uncle. Sometimes people within religious bodies, they're religious counselors. So whether they be pastors or clergy members who are trained in counseling, and they can provide listening ear as well, um, and also provide some spiritual guidance at the same time. So these are traditional actually forms of support. So I think the preference for seeking the type of support will be up to the parent and the family. Certainly, counselors and psychologists are trained professionals, so to speak. But even then, the fit for your child and the type of counselor that they encounter will matter as well. Don't give up if the first counselor doesn't seem like a good fit for your child. There could be other ones as well.
Right. Thank you. Um, yeah, thank you so much for all your sharing. Yeah, for sharing so openly and honestly. If you have learned something tonight, our audience, please click on an emoji to show your appreciation for our speakers who have shared really from their hearts. There's so much here for us to reflect on. So, but we also want to hear from the audience. If you have any questions about bullying or a situation that your child is going through, feel free to drop it in the comments, and chances are there are other parents here that will have the same question. So if you're already sending your questions, please, thank you. We will start addressing them soon. We will have a short time to make some announcements while you pen down your questions. So please stay in here. Don't go anywhere. We have a few resources for you after this FB Live. We've prepared a post-event page with everything in one place. You'll find some practical tools to help you recognize bullying early, to respond with confidence and support your child in conversations. And there's also a trusted support resources in Malaysia if you need further help. So please take a moment to visit the page. You can also watch the replay of this video, and you can share it with any parents who might need this. So the next announcement is that here at Focus on the Family, somebody asked earlier, how can I bond with my child? We actually run parent-child bonding programs throughout the year to help busy parents, build stronger relationships at home. So we recently completed our Dad and Son Adventure Camp. Next up, we have our Mom and Daughter Connection on 16 May. So spaces are limited. Please do sign up soon. And through this bonding of events, we create intentional spaces for meaningful conversation and deeper connection with our children. So, and in conjunction with Mother's Day coming up as well, we're also running a special flash sale on all our resources. We have great resources on parenting, marriage to help you through your family journey. So if you're looking for a meaningful gift, it will also be a great opportunity to check out our flash sale. Lastly, to stay connected with us, Please join our WhatsApp channel where you receive updates on our latest events, resources, and family tips. And when you join, don't forget to unmute notifications so you won't miss out on what's coming up. So please click on the link in the comments or scan the QR to subscribe. All right. Thank you for this short break. We gave our speakers a little bit of a break. Now we'll bring back the speakers on screen and we'll move to the Q&A. I believe we've received quite a number of questions. So thank you very much to the audience for sending them in. Let's take a look at the first question. All right, from Michael. What if my child may be a bully? He loves to bully his own sibling. Okay. So bullying at home. Maybe this question is for Dr. Daniel.
Right. So um, I think we have to be realistic and acknowledge that I think at some point in time, I think almost all of us in different points of time in our life, we might have been unkind to others, right? Let's put it that way, right? So it's a question of whether we repeatedly do so. Sometimes we get giddy on the exertion of power over others. And so I'm guessing this question is coming from a parent with an older sibling bullying a younger sibling. That's more typical, right? And part of that could be a power dynamic. Um, and there could be different reasons for that. So if your child is a bully, I think teaching them to see their actions in terms of, I wouldn't maybe frame it as bullying. Um, I won't label the word bully. I would actually call it kind versus unkind. So are you being unkind here toward your younger brother? So you're trying to teach a value of kindness to your child, and I would certainly help them to label the behavior as kind or unkind, not label it as them label it as a bullying or non-bullying behavior, because bullying comes with the label of them being a bully. Then, whereas like I think when you frame it as kind versus unkind, so when they're not being kind, certainly there are moments that we all have not been kind. And how do you learn from that? How can you be kinder the next time? What helps you be kinder? And certainly sometimes they'll have like, oh, but he did this and such and such that warranted my response, right? And then you can teach them better problem solving strategies rather than just being unkind as a way to coerce the younger sibling. So think of it as a teaching opportunity, and I will guarantee you there will be many teaching opportunities because your child will continue in their patterns for a while. And a lot of it, you just want to foster good, loving sibling relationships. And so using those moments as teaching moments.
Yeah. Do you think in a way that sometimes the kid thinks it's fun to kind of be unkind? Like I wouldn't say bully now, but sometimes I catch my kids doing the same, and right? And like they seem to enjoy doing it. Is it like they're just having fun and they just rather than being unkind and they don't know the limits?
A lot of times, really, the kids don't know the limits, right?
Mm,
And so part of it is drawing it for them. So remember earlier I talked about like school authorities working together with parents to try to correct a student's behavior. Um, uh, you can label the case as bullying, but again, it needs to have to meet the threshold of the scope, the intent, the power issue. But then, really, if you have someone who's repeatedly kind of just engaging in malicious behaviors toward others, you want to correct the child really so that they become good members of society. It's hard because part of it is sometimes the way kids are wired, they get a certain um, a kick. They get an
yeah.
intrinsic reward from dominating other people in different ways. And sometimes it's. I mean, sometimes even think about it between friends. It's kind of fun to rib someone else, to send a zinger out, right? So that's fun, you know. But when you go too far, the ability then to make amends, to teach them to know how to. I've overstepped, and I didn't mean to overstep, but I did. And then I'm going to try and correct it. And I'm sorry. Just that I'm sorry. Repair that relationship. Those are all skills that kids can learn as they grow older.
Yep. That's very helpful. Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Daniel. All right, let's have the next question from the floor. From SP, should children always be told to walk away or are there times to stand up for themselves? Okay, I guess this would be for Dr. Daniel too.
Right. I think there is a beauty in both. Certainly, it's hard without the context. I would say a lot of this is context dependent, right? We want kids to have the wisdom, right, which is knowing when to do what. So it's hard without them making mistakes of when to walk away and when to stand up for themselves. Um, and I would say to the first part of the question, should kids always be taught to walk away? I think the answer should be a no lah. Kids shouldn't always be taught to walk away. I think that I would reframe that and say that I think it's important for kids to learn how to de-escalate, because you are trying to get them to have effectual skills in the real world, right? So if they are being targeted, how do you handle that skillfully, right? And so you want them to be able to learn that if I'm being targeted by someone else, how do I, in a way, how do I tai chi that away? How do I turn that around so that I can either keep this relationship, or if I decide that this is a relationship that is not worth keeping because, again, as I said, um, the walking away doesn't mean we want to be friends, right? But if you want to try to engage well with the other person and win over, so to speak, that person, there are skills as well involved in that. Without becoming a bully yourself, of course, right? You don't say that, oh, okay, we become friends because now you don't target me, huh? I'll go with you and target someone other person. So we try to avoid that, obviously, but the skill is then to de-escalate. And it will take time for you to learn how to de-escalate. Yeah. So maybe the first step typically is if you see other people targeting other people, I do encourage my children learn how to step in there to de-escalate that situation. So if you're doing it for other people, hopefully you'll learn some of the skills to do it yourself when it's directed at you, or if you yourself maybe one day become that perpetrator, to catch that cue that you've gone overboard, cool down, back away.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and I think that definitely takes a lot of courage. Yeah, to teach our kids the courage to actually say something when they see something is not right. Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you. Next question from Peter Yang. What if the bully is an adult? Okay, like a person of authority, like the school teacher.
That's a good question. So this certainly is like beyond school age, right? And I assume that the question is so. Like, I mean, bullying takes place in the workplace as well. It takes place in the real world, so to speak. Which is why I say like school is a microcosm. Like it is the opportunity to learn. The playground is a microcosm of school, which school is a microcosm of society. You learn. You need to learn some of these small skills where you are at, and so that when you grow up, you have these skills to navigate um, maybe high conflict surroundings. And so if you come across personalities that tend to be rough and tough, and maybe they are a supervisor at work who is making great demands of you, and is that bullying type behaviors? Because technically they have the power differential. Sometimes they have also the capacity for um, causing you distress, and then they do it often. Is that bullying? And so learning then to also navigate your work demands is a skill. So I would say if the person is a person of authority, right? So that itself is a power difference, right? I would say if that person is your bully, learn the skills of de-escalating as well. I would say it's not very different from the assertiveness skills I talked about earlier. A lot of times it's just saying that describe the situation. So describe the facts, so that, hey, you asked me to stay back late for work like 5 times in the last 1 month. And and then you can just say, I've missed a number of family meals and I'm losing sleep and kind of stressed right now. So let's express how I feel and then ask. And then say that, for the next 2 months, because we don't have any urgent working deadlines, I would like my, at least make it clear what your ask is as well. So describe, express, assert, or ask.
All right. Thank you. Okay, thanks for the question, Peter. The next question, I think it's our second last question. My 6-year-old daughter felt uncomfortable when a friend kissed her on the lips, but didn't speak up for fear of losing the friendship. How should I guide her and should I step in? Yeah, this one's for Dr. Daniel. And later we have one for Garnison.
All right. So my question to I mean, it's hard because this is not interactive. My question
Yeah.
would be like, how often is this happening? Is this a repeated pattern of kissing, or is this? And then I would also lean on how did your child interpret that experience of being kissed on the lips, and meaning like, was it unwanted, and therefore I received it and I didn't want it, but okay lah, it didn't really bother me that much. Or I didn't want it, and I'm really upset that this had happened, and I can't believe this had happened. Um, so what is the perspective of the child, and then how often is this happening? And I would say that in terms of if it's happening like frequently, certainly, and your child is very uncomfortable with it happening, but does not know how to stop or put a stop to it, my first instinct wouldn't be talking to the other parent, not right away at least. My first instinct would be to have your child learn how to address it in the moment when it happens, right? So first you could ask your child like, so okay, so if you don't want it to happen again, right, what do you think you could do, right? And so you lean in on what their preference is for that, and then learn to build on their response. I won't correct whatever they do, whatever they say right away, but I would say that okay, that's great, that's a good start, right? And then have them start practicing or doing. Okay, so last time we said, so the next time it happens again, then you said, then when your daughter is put in that position, you can say, do you do what we talked about? And then she said, maybe it's, oh, I forgot. Okay, then next time you can try again. Okay, then next time they try, how did that go? Did that work? Um, it comes in slow phases, and as a parent, you almost have to bite your tongue, waiting for them to go through it over and over. I would say, all things considered, a kiss on the lips, um, I guess hygiene, sanitary aspects aside, not the worst thing lah that could happen, but certainly unwanted, right? If that's the case, then also, how do you, put up a quick no also? And you could teach alternative responses, but I would, as I said, see what your child might say. And then you could say, okay, there's also option B, option C. And then you can see what feels right for you in that moment. Basically, on how to say no. It's very hard to teach the DEA to very young kids at 6 years old. You might just have to go straight to the express, like, hey, I don't like it. Express what they think or feel, and then say, hey, can you stop? Right? Then express and ask right away.
Yeah.
All right, if that makes sense. So keep it simple in a sense for them.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I think if I leave with anything, I would definitely remember DEA. I think that's a really helpful acronym for us parents. Yeah. Okay, we have one last question for, I believe, for Ganesan and Kavi. Okay, from LT. If parents remember just one thing from tonight, what should it be? Okay, so maybe Ganesan and Kavi, you can share something if you have.
Want to go first or you mean?
It's okay, go first.
Okay, thanks. For me, I feel that communication is very important. Parents should sit with their children to communicate and find out what is happening in their lives. I know as parents, right, we are always busy with work and all that. Have regular conversations with your children to see what is happening and to find out what happens in their daily life, even in school, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So keep the communication lines open, the relationship, yeah, always warm and close. Yeah, the bond close.
And
Thanks.
not be judgmental. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
that is more important. I always tell even my friends, my fellow father friends, and all that, don't be judgmental. Give them the
Mm,
space.
yes. Thanks. Kavi, you want to share anything?
Yes. So I would like to elaborate just a bit on what my father said. So parents, right, should actually try their best to be open with their children, as in like listening to them, their problems and all that. No matter how distant your child feels from you, or like how old they are, like whether they're in their teens or they're younger, they still feel love and connection towards you, no matter how it may seem. So by showing that you're actually open to listening to them, they really feel more comfortable sharing with you, no matter how they may, physically show it. Deep down inside, they actually deeply appreciate it that you're opening your ears for them, and without judgment, like my father said. So,
Mm,
yeah.
yeah, thanks. So I think even when a child baby doesn't want to open up at the start, right? It doesn't mean that they don't want the connection. Maybe it would just take a bit of time, yeah, for them to. But they actually appreciate, yeah, when a parent takes time to listen. Dr. Daniel, any last words from you?
No, just thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
All right. Okay. So thank you everyone for your questions. We may not have covered all the questions, but I hope whatever that was shared today would have given you greater clarity and confidence in helping your child. It definitely has helped me a lot. So before our speakers leave the screen, I want to appreciate Dr. Daniel, Garnison, and Kavi for your wonderful and valuable insights and for sharing so openly with us tonight. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
And as we come to the end of tonight's session, allow me to close with a few words. Our children may face bullying outside the home, but they don't have to face it alone, as we have heard tonight. What makes the difference is what happens at home. And when a child knows that I'm safe, I'm heard, I'm not alone, it definitely changes how they walk through even the hardest situations. So, as Dr. Daniel has also shared and Garrison, often the greatest protection that we can give our children is not in removing all the difficulties, but by walking closely with them through it. So, as parents, don't feel like we have to fix everything at once or have all the right answers. As it was shared earlier too, sometimes it goes in slow phases, right? We have to take it step by step. So let's start with one simple step, create that space for a conversation, listen a little more closely, and remind your child that they can always come to you. And if there's anything that you take home tonight, remember to start that conversation with your child today or tomorrow because it's a public holiday. Because at the end of the day, what our children really need most is not perfection, but our connection with them. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We hope you have a wonderful weekend and a great night.